Thanks and hello. Welcome to our Tech Series, which is our monthly thought leadership event here at esynergy. I'm Ulrika. I'm looking after marketing and part of the executive team. But as esynergy's business model, I'm a consultant to the business. In the area of various projects and marketing in particular. Does everybody, since we're small, since we're a small group, is everybody familiar with esynergy? Lots of new faces? No? A couple of shakes? Okay. So just quickly about the business technology consultancy, and we deliver business value from the cloud, mainly around 3 service offerings: cloud adoption, cloud native software development, and data engineering, and a lot of things within the 3 of those. And for us, it's really about understanding, measuring, and delivering value to our clients. And as a business, we're on a journey to really figuring out what that means in terms of true value delivery, and really putting the customer and the business value at front and center of everything we do. The business model, as I just alluded to, is one where we leverage the gig economy. We work with the best contractors in the UK market, and that allows us to really put together the most relevant teams for whatever business or technology problems our clients have. We have really fast mobilization times because of this, and we're focused. We call ourselves boutique, so we focus from a geographic perspective, where we only work in the UK across the financial services and public sector. We are focused from a vertical perspective, as I just mentioned, and from a technology perspective as well, where we really look at kind of new progressive tech only. Sorry, I'm having problems with my PowerPoint. Tonight, oh yeah, sorry, just go back, some housekeeping, sorry, Graham. Just quickly, Graham will do his presentation, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A, which we'll do by just either you want to raise your hand through the top bottom panel in Zoom, or you just unmute yourself. I think we can be fairly casual, small size group. And yeah, please keep yourself on mute throughout the talk. And as I said, we'll have some Q&A at the end. Tonight we are joined by Graham. Graham is the CTIO of Covia Insurance, and he'll talk to us about disrupting a traditional technology infrastructure estate and technology estate of an insurance business through looking at concepts like microservices architectures or insurance as a service. Graham, I'll stop sharing my screen and over to you.
Perfect, thank you. Can you see that? Is that the wrong screen?
We see presentation mode. Yeah. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah, so I'm Graham. I joined Covea just over 2 years ago. I've never worked in insurance before, although you'll not be surprised to know I might have worked in technology for a long time. And I've done numerous different transformations in numerous different companies, from international relocation to telco. I worked for Motorola Solutions on all their solutions globally for many years. Sort of cut my teeth doing that. Really, Covea, a lot of people haven't heard of Covea. We are a, I don't know, we've got about 2.1 million policyholders. We're a mid-sized tier 1 insurer in the UK market. With about just under 800 million pound of gross written premium last year. 2019, 2020 results are only out tomorrow, so I couldn't put it in. But yeah, similar results for that. We're owned by a large French mutual with about 17 billion pound in France. They're the leading insurer in France, and we're the kind of the UK offshoot. So we are a big enough size to to be effective in the UK market, but not huge and not tied down by quite so many restraints as some of the bigger players in the UK that have got such big books of business. It's hard for them to actually to disrupt the insurance market so much. They've got so many customers, they've got so much legacy. It's hard to migrate. So we're in a pretty good size to be able to be a bit more innovative and do something a bit different. And that is what we're doing to try and drive ourselves forward. What did we do? So I guess I run Conveyor Digital. We created a brand within Conveyor Insurance to give us a bit of an edge, bit of an ability. It's no surprise, probably no shock to anyone, that insurance has got a bit of a pale male stale view in the marketplace. Who wants to come and work at an insurance company? Legacy hardware, legacy software, legacy systems. What's inventive about that? Insurance hasn't really changed for 100 years. So why would you want to work and do technology in an insurance company? I wanted to do it because I wanted to disrupt insurance, and that's why I really came to join. And Conveyor is in that sort of spot where we are doing something a little bit different. So to try and ensure that we could create that culture, that identity, we created Conveyor Digital as part of Conveyor, but the technology-driven engine for that. So what do we do? There's quite a big team. We're about 350 staff, permanent staff with contractors, offshore, nearshore, and consultancy. We're about 500 people, doing all sorts of things, from the digital experience, UX, insights, down to DevOps, engineering. We're creating a lot of our own software, not just buying it off the shelf, which I'll come to a little bit more later, but also there's a whole piece around service, looking after our existing legacy platforms, looking after our new systems, even down to data science and insights and analytics. So we've kind of got a lot of people. It's probably it's a big part of the company. Nearly a quarter of the company is driving the technical transformation. So we're highly invested, and it's really part of our strategic aim is to drive it forward. So from an insurance perspective, it's quite a large percentage of the population that's working on changing things. So it's I think it's a fun place to be. We're definitely making a bit of progress. It's a long way to go on our journey, but we're really moving forward. So the question I want you to think about whilst we go through some of these slides, and we can talk about as we get into it, is what does it mean to disrupt insurance? There's always the technical angle on that, changing platforms, changing technically how we do it. But I'm looking a bit wider, and when I think about disrupting insurance, it's not to do that technically, although obviously that is what we're doing. It's more fundamental. As I said, I don't think really insurance has changed much in the last 100 years, and it really is. It was quite technically advanced 40 years ago when there was complicated modeling, the pricing, how it's done, but it's very much stagnated. It's the same model. It's a grudge purchase. Many people don't want to buy car insurance. You buy car insurance because you have to buy car insurance. It's not something where you go, oh, wow, I'd love to get that insurance from that company because it's a really compelling product that I want to buy. And I think, that to me is disrupting insurance. Will we turn it into something that's super, super exciting? It's not an iPhone, I get that. So I'm setting my sights on a little bit lower than that, but I do feel that we are in a position where we can actually change that purchase to be something that's a bit more compelling, something where you choose your insurance provider, not just because they're the cheapest, but because they provide you with a service and a personalization that is worthy of you putting your business with that company. And you build a trust relationship, not just a purchase every year because it's the cheapest and go on an aggregator and find the cheapest deal. So that's kind of one of the things I want to sort of think about a little bit more is what does insurance mean, and what does disrupting it mean, and more than just the technology, but just the whole ethos of insurance. To me, a lot of it is what do we do with the technology? What do we do with data to really change the game? So one of the things I want to think about is insurance is changing. There is a massive upswell of insurance, insurtechs, new technology. There's companies doing things that are much, much quicker than large scale insurers can. It's harnessing that. I feel that's the best way to move forward and to disrupt, is to harness working with insurtechs, to be a provider of insurance services that can integrate with other companies, small, medium, large, or whatever that might be, but to be able to move at speed. Insurance needs to change. I don't think it's a great product really at the moment. There's a lot that can be done for it. The technology is definitely ready to enable that to happen. So I feel the time is now. In fact, it was probably a little bit ago. In fact, 26, 12, 18 months ago was the time. Now we're already into the swell of that. So I'm thinking about things like the data from a car. Manufacturers have got thousands and thousands of data points coming out of cars now. It's not being used that much, but even a Ford Transit van has got a huge amount of information that you can pick up and broadcast, and that you could consume to help protect people. Is it around you're driving very fast at night and you've got the air conditioning really hot, and are you in danger of going to sleep? Rather than persecuting you for that, if you can build an insurance product that makes you might give you a notification that maybe you should think about having the temperature in the car a bit warmer, or opening the window, giving you a hint that maybe you might have an accident. So trying to prevent that. It could be there's a lot about smart technology within homes. There's 101 different gadgets and different bits of IoT that are floating around, but it's consuming that information, but trying to change the face of insurance. So it's not just about selling you a product. It's helping you protect yourself and making it personable to you. Be it that you have car insurance and it changes from fully comprehensive when you drive into it to third party when it's locked in the garage at night, or you go to the airport and your policy changes to say it's you're not driving it for 2 weeks because you're on holiday. Imagine going on holiday as a segue. Sorry, just imagine that. That would be fun, wouldn't it? I'd love to go on holiday again. But anyway, it's how does that happen? Does it then kick in with your travel insurance? All these type of things. The data's there. So why aren't we using it to provide a service to people that makes things different? So what's our vision as Conveyor Digital? It is to create a digital insurance as a service platform. So your data's in one position. It doesn't matter which policy you've got, if it's home or motor or commercial or pet. We've got the information. We want to be able to leverage our platform to launch new products, to amend products, to hyper-personalized products, and provide innovative ways to exceed customer expectations, and really by providing digital experiences that are delightful, intuitive, and intelligent. Really putting the customer as the central point of insurance, because at the end of the day, that's what the insurance is for the customer. It's not this big, scary thing that people just have to have. It should be about providing a good service. So that's kind of our ethos to try and move forward. So where are we? So when I joined, we're sat with a legacy platforms, like most insurance companies and like most financial services companies, and like lots of companies really that have been around for a long time. Yeah, we've got loads of different platforms. They work in silos. I can't get data from one system to another. You phone up and you buy a policy, you phone up and you want to claim. Well, okay, I really can have trouble linking that data together. You want to buy a new insurance policy and you're like, well, I've got all my policies with you. Why can't you tell me about them? That's an embarrassing situation to be in. And there's lots of things around that. But a lot of companies are going for, well, let's put some layers in. Let's layer up the architecture. Let's put a few different ways of extracting data from a legacy system, augmenting it, and providing what I would classify as a lipstick on a pig. So it looks like you've got a fantastic digital experience, but in reality, you're really suffering and you can't actually be hyper-personalized. You can't really pivot. You can't really share information. And yeah, that's kind of, I guess, where we got to. You can follow that approach, but I don't believe you can really deliver the sort of customer experience that's required if you're trying to change the market and you're trying to really change perceptions. It's difficult to set up business continuity and disaster recovery. You've got legacy hardware that is maybe end of life. You've got to try and move that away. You've got a new I don't know, a UI that you're trying to provide, but it needs to be close to the application for it to work, because you've got latency issues because the application's not built to scale. And every time you try and do something, you give yourself more technical debt, or you really drive into a position where it's difficult to move at the speed that you want. And then you want to work with an insurtech and they want to access your data. Your data's in 16 different data warehouses, and you can't really operate in the way that you want. So I guess what we came up to the solution was that we could try and move forward like that, or we could take the brave move and define a new technology platform, and we could do something different. Most other insurance companies, as a general rule, are working on what I would call new monolithical applications. There's some big players in the market who will provide very, very good, very nice, lovely new solutions. But they are just new giant monolithical applications that, I think in 5, 10, 20 years time, we'll be left with exactly the same position that we're in today, where we've got legacy platform that doesn't really operate in the right way, and we can't make the changes that we want. So we decided to follow a different solution, use microservices to extrapolate out the functions of systems and create a insurance service platform that allows us to go for that more sort of a la carte approach, where you select the different solutions that you need, pull it into the right sort of platform, and you can rebuild and reuse different components. And as you start to build them out, you can then switch different solutions in different ways. So if you've got a payment solution, is a segment, it's a microservice. If you want to change payment solution provider, you change the microservice. You could have multiple payment solutions. You could retire one, you could use one for different things. It just cuts down the platform into usable slices. And microservices is not the answer to everything. It's got its own inbuilt inherent issues. They're hard to optimize and scale. There's many different things that can go wrong with using microservices, but it's not particularly insurance specific. But I believe, and we believe, it's the way that we can be more nimble, much more agile in the market, and offer different services and kind of meet our expectations. So how have we done that? We've kind of basically split ourselves down into 5 core areas around policy admin. When you buy a solution, the whole quote and buy piece, how you manage a policy, claims, obviously when you make a claim on the insurance, pricing, it's a hugely important part of insurance, and then data, which is obviously underpins everything. The other 3 are really key areas. Data is the future of everything, and all our work is pinned on data being the crux of everything. We've also got an element called Earth, which is all around our employee experience, collaboration platforms, and security, and ensure that it's all kind of fitted together. How that breaks down then to how we manage it. We talked about planets. We felt it was much better if we could articulate what we were trying to do in a planetary view, so people could talk about Earth, Earth's our foundation, Earth's us, that's where we live. Claims is Mercury, so it's a planet in its own right, and it fits within the solar system. Just try and get a bit more ownership, so it wasn't just as quite so dry, so we've got a bit more fun around that, and how all the planets spin together and how we segment our work off. So that gives us a view of how we're operating. So now I'm not sure of a technical slide for those that are thinking I'm just going to talk about insurance tonight. So this is our high-level architecture of our insurance as a service platform. You can see hopefully it's big enough. It is really based upon a microservices platform, an event-driven platform. So over on the left, you can see all the sort of contact center elements, where people are calling in by different methods, be it phone or a portal, running analytics on those, pushing different ways of experiencing the UI with the customer. There's all the self-service pieces then that hang off that. Also we're pushing a digital first approach. But people sometimes want to phone. It's a very emotive thing, particularly when people have claimed. They don't always want to use a tablet or take a picture of their car. which obviously is something we can offer. They want to have that interaction. They want to talk about it. They're in shock. You've got to give them different methods of communicating. You can see over on the right, we've got a lot of different third parties. So there could be repairs, it could be accommodation, it could be like a digital assistant to move it out. So again, it's all event driven. So if we want to interact with somebody, someone's booking system, we can share data, we can send events, we can receive events. Again, a lot of correspondence. There's a lot of different things. We're using APIs, unsurprisingly. We're using Kong as our API gateway. So we can share information internally, externally with our microservices. And we do a lot of work with affinity partners. So although the brand Kaveh might not be massively well known, we are driving a lot of big name insurance solutions. They are driven by Kaveh, although they might not be branded by Kaveh. So that's a big part of our strategy, is to be able to offer that. So, John Lewis is one of the big affinity partners we work with. Their solution, is bespoke to them. It's custom to them. So, using platforms like this, we can offer a different way of operating, and a different kind of brand for them, a different experience. The claims experience can be different. The policy experience can be different. The pricing obviously can be different, and how the product is made up. So all this kind of fits within our architecture. I won't spend too long to bore people to death with the architecture, but what does it fit with? We're using lots of exciting, I think, different solutions to drive this forward. So again, tying back into why we launched Kaveh Digital, because we're not just using somebody else's software. We are using lots of open source stuff, using exciting things like Kafka and Kubeflow and Selden for some of the data science pieces, Python. We're using Commander, which is an amazing open source workflow solution that's really driving some of our workflow into the agent screens. Again, most of it is written on Node and React on the front end. OpenText is our correspondence platform. Again, lots of interesting bits of software, but not what you'd normally see an insurance company operating in. So again, what we're utilizing when we've got a lot of experience from outside of insurance to help build these platforms out in a way that's is more interesting. I think gives people the freedom to really use their skills, use their knowledge from other areas, and bring it to insurance to help drive that forward in a different way. We're using a headless CMS so that we can allow the business to help manage the solutions and platforms and change things on the fly. So it's not relating, they don't have to come to IT to make changes, wording and things like that, and imaging. So Content Stack is really helping us with that. So lots of interesting different elements around this as to how we're building our platform out. Okay, I'll take a bit there. I can't see if anyone's got any questions, but if they have, let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk a bit about kind of how we're hosting it. Okay, so it's all well and good to create all these very clever platforms, but as I said, we were sitting on standard sort of data centers. Our networks are all set up I guess just a more industry standard kind of way. That's not really going to help us move forward, but as we're migrating, we've got over 370 different legacy platforms, so we can't just shake a stick and rebuild them all in some fancy new architecture, much as I'd like to. It takes a long time to build these systems out. So we've got a strategy of kind of a hybrid cloud approach, where at the moment a lot of the data is flowing through the data centers. We're pushing out with we're using AWS and Azure as our key cloud providers at the moment. So we're looking at trying to move as much legacy hardware from the data center or workloads off those into the cloud. If we can containerize them, if we can migrate them, then we are moving them off. The new stuff we're building is mainly based on AWS, but we are also creating it in a cloud agnostic way, so that we're able to move workloads, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Also then pushing a lot of our applications into it, into SaaS solutions, so we can drive it out if we can migrate it off now, and we can move the bandwidth and utilization from our data centers over. So that's kind of where we're at the moment, trying to decommission things. What we're moving forward to is basically switching it over. So as we migrate those systems, we're pushing, trying to get 70-80% of traffic straight to cloud, and minimize really our footprint in the data center. So just applications we really can't move. As I said, we've got some things which are very intrinsically tied into some of our workflows. We've got some very complicated actuarial type systems that we need to run the business. And although the benefit of moving them is high, the complexity is higher, and the payoff is lower. So moving forward with that, stabilizing some of our systems, so we're getting that different balance in the different workloads, and I guess you're really utilizing as much as we can that cloud platform. We've moved some pieces. We've literally just picked up some of the elements and managed to make them work in a cloud environment so that we can get the scalability. Our quote engine is a great example of that, where it's still the same software. We've just managed to host it in cloud, and we've massively increased its capability and its capacity to support us. Will we change it later down the line? Absolutely, re-engineer it. But for the moment, we've managed to increase the capacity and move off the legacy hardware and move ourselves forward. So it really is a case of looking at workloads, looking at where we feel we can get the biggest bang for our buck, I suppose, in the transformation, and being really pragmatic, I think, about what you can live with and what you might not want to live with it. It's that intentional technical debt versus unintentional technical debt, and functional technical debt versus non-functional, where it's just something you need to live with. And then just looking about how we're really doing that. What does our hybrid cloud really look like? We're using Kubernetes to great effect, and Docker to blend across on that multi-cloud approach. So all our new stuff, basically sitting on the top, but we're building out HCI infrastructure underneath, so we can switch workloads. So as we get more of our capability in the cloud, as I'm sure most of you are aware, cloud providers can really change their prices and workloads. Some are better in some areas than others. So we're really pushing for that ability to run it wherever, be it in our own private cloud. Do we pivot into AWS? Do we move off to Azure because for the moment that's good, or GCP? Whatever it might be, we've tried to blend in as much flexibility to that as possible, and really be able to move workload around at will is the idea. Are we fully there yet? No, but are we a good way down that road? And the architecture really stand out to that? Absolutely, yeah. We're having kind of quite a lot of impact on that to move us forward. So that's how we're driving it, to try and tie it back into some of the cloud pieces of work we're doing and where our architecture sits. So what are we all doing? I mean, obviously, as I said, I started about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and we've been working on our policy admin solution. So at the moment, we're just in production. We're working with Vitality on a new solution called Vitality Car. It's the first thing that we're doing. It's using our new policy admin solution, so it's on all new platform. It's about rewarding drivers for good driving. It's really pushing on that kind of more of a green approach to life. There's carbon offset functions and features with the policies. It's trying to reward you for not always driving if you can, and if you do drive, then to drive in a conscious manner to other road users in different parts. So I'll not talk too much about the solution. There'll be a lot more in the press around that in the next coming weeks, but just to say that it's the first stage for us in doing something different and really trying to reimagine. And again, we're working in a joint venture where we co-develop different bits and pieces. So the flexibility of the platform has allowed us to deliver different pieces together without having to build a monolithic application. The integration is all API integration, so we can share the web development, we can share the workload, and we can work as in a partnership. So it's a really exciting time for us. to see the fruition of a couple of years of really hard work, and to get something out is it's always really exciting for us. So what next? We are driving a lot more into, we're doing a lot more work on replatforming some of the other elements that aren't included in this new offering. We're working on claims, working on pricing, real-time pricing, a whole host of other stuff, and also lots of different other products within the personal lines insurance sphere. But our head of architecture and head of service, Neil, is a big part of the Open Insurance Initiative. So what we're trying to do is to drive forward to a different way. Open banking initiative was a massive success a few years ago to change financial services. So we're trying to help drive those open insurance initiatives so we can work with other insurers. Freedom of information, just transparency about what we're doing, how we're pricing things, working with other providers who are using a similar sort of architecture to free up data, to free up customers to get choice. Working on things like blockchain and smart contracts to enable really good solid information sharing, and to allow us to leverage what we've built and work with others in a different manner. So that to me is really exciting, particularly as we start to get more data coming in the future. There's so much information about people. We need to be using it in the right way and not misusing the data, because it's so easy to do, and there's so many examples of where people have done that. Not necessarily in insurance, but just in other industries. And so trying to do things like this to me is super important, so that we're making sure that we're building for the future, and have a collaborative way of operating. So it's a great initiative to be in, and we're starting to make some headway in that now. There's quite a lot of progress starting to be made. It really sort of fits in, hopefully, with our approach, and our architecture is dovetails into that, and enables us to be really, I guess, on the front foot in that kind of open API approach. Cool. That's it. So yeah, a bit of a whistle stop tour. Again, I'm super passionate about what we're trying to do. I just think it's really interesting. I think there's an opportunity to do something and not be pale male stale. Although unfortunately I am typical middle-aged IT professional, so I can only do so much about that.
Thanks, Graham. Any questions?
I have one. Sorry, I know there's an etiquette, but I've just totally blown that for you, Ulrike. Sorry. Graham, how did you convince them to to go open source and to move into the cloud? Because we have so many challenges with our customers where they talk about it not being compliant, they're not being in line with regulation. They're very, very worried about open sourcing stuff. How did you overcome that?
So a lot of evidential information. Also got a couple of INEDs as well that have done. We've got some experience to help try and get that message across. But I think we're lucky. Because Cavea France, a huge company, would they do something like this? Absolutely not. But they see us as a small enough thing, and we're big enough but small enough to be nimble and to go forward with it. But I was working with EY on some research a couple of weeks ago, and they did research on cloud in Europe, and less than 10% of insurers in European insurers have got workload on cloud. So I mean, it is pretty unusual for insurers. But I guess I was working in telecoms on government public safety systems, on blue light systems for the governments in lots of different countries, and some of you probably remember GovCloud. We put workload that was a lot more sensitive on cloud 9 years ago, 10 years ago, and then onto proper public cloud 6-7 years ago. So there's a lot of use cases outside of financial services, and banking are using public cloud and things now. So there's a bit of an impetus to come together, but it took a bit of effort. Yeah, it's a bit of trust, isn't it? But as I keep telling them, I could never spend as much money as AWS do on security. I could never do such a good job. I could never compete with the level of scrutiny and support that I can get elsewhere, it's a bit of a leap of faith, but it was a compelling argument, I think.
Did you have were you supplied with information from from the the CSPs or some of the other organisations to back up your claims? Because it must be difficult negotiating with the head of compliance and risk, whose job is to keep this stuff out of the insurance world. I'm just curious I just wonder whether that was an avenue that you had to go, because obviously if you have a few senior stakeholders that buy into it at board level, it's very easy. But with all due respect, there's not many of those in the insurance world that are prepared to to take that risk. They much rather walk around the city with their files, drinking in the pubs on a Friday afternoon, rather than put workload in the cloud, because that's they're going to change their way of working.
Yeah, I mean, lots of evidential proof, and a pretty strong business case, and the I guess the benefits outweighing the risk. But I mean, the FCA and PRA are definitely coming round to the idea. They're pushing multi-cloud now, saying that you shouldn't just be on one cloud provider, and there's an upswell. There's a real upswell. But yeah, we're definitely on the front foot, I think, in some ways, and we've got quite a lot of workload in cloud, so we're pushing a lot more in. I'm not trying to downplay the difficulty or the arguments that needs to be won to move into this. It's not easy, but I think it's the proof, isn't it, that you can drive it forward.
I had a question as well, Graham. Although I know we talked about it, we had 2 chats already. I have a question. Are you, obviously you've invested a lot over the last 2 years in kind of building the architecture. Do you already see the benefit and the value for the kind of end clients, or even a step earlier within the team, or is the course still currently it's a lot of investment of time, resource, money, I guess, as well? Or do you already see some value coming back?
We're starting to, as I said, because we're not truly live with the major pieces that add the most amount of value, but you can see that the cost and the efficiency gains that we've driven, and the scalability and speed, and because we haven't spent 20 million pound on hardware, we could spend that in a different way if we didn't have to scale it all up. So there's some of that's definitely baked in and is starting to be realized, but yeah, it takes a bit of time to get the true value back, doesn't it, for it to really show the value of moving forward. But when you're working with things like aggregators, and you can scale up to however many quotes in 5 milliseconds, whatever, then that's quite tricky if you're providing your own hardware as well. You can start to see the benefits on some of those high intensity workloads quite quickly.
I had a question just around, I guess if you take a look back over the past couple of years, Graham, what were the kind of biggest challenges that you faced, and I suppose biggest lessons learned?
So we had an idea of what we needed to do, and to achieve what we needed to do, we had to take a leap of faith at one point to say we're not going to build it on our legacy system. We're not going to build another affinity partnership on our legacy system, and that was the 4th day of my new job. I had to present back to the board saying, if you want, you've employed me to do this job. If you want me to put my name to the next stage, I can't with goodwill think that I can achieve it with the platform you want me to build it on. So I definitely used my new boy shine to get something really, really awkward out of the way quite quickly before they realised, I guess, the importance of what was done. So that definitely was a big step for us to go forward. I think it's like anything. You can look back over a development and think, I wish I hadn't done that, or we could have done that a bit differently. But I think it's about learning. We've learned a huge amount, and it's about how we inject that back in, that continued improvement. I'm a big advocate of fail fast and put yourself right out there. So maybe not super publicly like this, but there's a couple of guys on there, and you probably better tell you, I'm quite happy when I've made a mistake. I will definitely put my hand up, and I want to celebrate it, because I think that's when you gain from it. Because I always learned so much more when I cocked it up than when I got it right first time. because you don't really know why you got it right. So yeah, we definitely made some errors, I think, in the journey, but we also learned a lot and have done a lot of good stuff. So yeah, it's been a good fun 2 years. It's been quite hard the last couple of months. And in 12 months, 13 months of lockdown, when trying to build a brand new platform, I'm not gonna lie, I was worried. And if it's fair play to the team for having the desire and drive to drive forward, and some great partnerships with people that have really helped us.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other questions for Graham? No, in that case, Graham, thank you so much for this super insightful. Thanks for your time preparing it. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And all the best of luck going forward.
Thank you.
Hang in there. I just go quickly back to my PowerPoint just to say thanks again to Graham, and then just a heads up of what's next. So as I said, we only kicked off the tech series as our monthly thought leadership event this year. Next up, we have Simon Wardley, who's the inventor, I think it's fair to say, of the Wardley maps. You can already register through the QR code here. Otherwise, we'll also send out some invites very soon. And hopefully we can see many of you there. Thanks for joining tonight. Well, I'm personally hoping that at some point we can do this all in person again. We're already looking forward to meeting some of you. I feel like everybody is definitely at the end of the the Zoom road. But yeah, thanks again for coming. Thanks, Graham. Thanks, Adele, Cara, for organizing, and have a lovely evening.